Any case, now Mishna. So, what's a Mishna? Who knows? What's a Mishna?
Halakha.
It's what?
It's a set of halakha.
Good. It's a collection of halachas in specific paragraphs. That's all it is. Okay? One. Okay. Now, there are, when you learn Mishnayos, now we know, what do you have to know for halacha? So, you have all the breakdown. Case, conduct, principle, essential conditions, derivation, and then the synthesis, that's analysis, synthesis, which you have is the area or the category, you have this address and the structure, then you have variations of the case to see how it varies, and you can actually see how the principle changes and therefore the conduct changes. Okay, it's called the variational analysis, so analyze the variations of a given halacha, which is, because that's what you want to see. You want to see how it changes, how if you change some aspect of a case, what happens to its principle? And also, therefore, what happens to its conduct? The din, what happens? That's how you really begin to see. This is very useful in many places. For instance, Yevomas, depending on the case, there's a brother-in-law and there's a sister-in-law. Or what happens if there's three brother-in-laws and one sister-in-law? What happens if the sister-in-law is also besides the fact that she's an Eshesach, she's a sister-in-law? What happens if she's also, what happens if there's more than one wife? All kinds of variations going on here, you see. So what you really want to do ultimately is look at all the different variations from the simple to the complex, and then you want to see how the whole thing flows. That's really how you gain tremendous amount of clarity. Okay, so you have those 8 categories of a halacha. Now, what are the categories of a Mishnah? What is a Mishnah? A Mishnah is looking at the totality of the halachas. Is it not? It's all of them together. These are the, what you call the elements of the, what are the components of a halacha itself? Right? But a Mishnah already is a text that contains halachas, right, in a paragraph. So, how do we learn a Mishnah? So we have to take a look at a Mishnah, right? First thing which is very important to recognize is that Mishnayos is an intermediate text. It is not a beginning text. Very important. See, people think it's beginning. One of the reasons why Mishnayos is so difficult is because it's intermediate. It's like looking at an intermediate physics book. So what is this? Okay, it's not advanced, but it's intermediate. If something is intermediate, what's the problem? What's missing?
You have to know what preceded it.
What preceded it? You need to know what's called preliminary ideas.
Background, introduction.
Background, background.
Definitions.
Who?
Definitions.
Yeah, and so on. It's all kinds. It's the concept of what I call PI, preliminary ideas, which is the same thing as background. Yeah. So many Mishnayos, you can't walk into a Mishnah. You need to know what? Background information, preliminary ideas first. So therefore, you need to know in each Mishnah, what are the ideas you need to know first, and then I can get into the Mishnah. Not only that, many times in the halacha itself may have a preliminary halacha. Even in a single halacha in the Mishnah, it may have a preliminary idea. Notice, Rabbi did not write a textbook. What I think he wrote is a record of the oral law. A record of the oral law, as opposed to a textbook. Because had he written a textbook, then you would have had a lot of preliminary ideas. Like a textbook has. A textbook starts from the beginning, moves on, gets more and more advanced, but doesn't start in the middle of something. You see. And there's all kinds of, the sectors that have that problem. Like Gittin, for instance, Hamevi Gittin in Din Siyam. Somebody brings a get from overseas, You have to say a certain declaration. Before me was written, and before me was signed. Huh? What in the world's a get? There's no statement about what is a get. Nothing. It just says, right, what are we talking about here? We're talking about the delivery of a get. Why would you start with the delivery of a get? You know what I'm saying? You got to start from the beginning. What is a get? And so on. What are different ideas and so on. So, and that's just one, Yevomus is classic. You know, there are 15 women that will exempt. Yeah. There are 15 women that will exempt not only themselves, but anybody who is married, Soros, anybody who's married to who was married to a person who died without kids, that will exempt the sister-in-law from Hebron. You know, like, wow, where in the world did that start from? You know what I'm saying? Preliminary ideas, you know. How many preliminary ideas are there in that Mishna? It's amazing. There are already basically 6 or 7 ideas that you have to know before you get to that Mishna. You know? If you want to do it, what's the first idea? What is the first idea that Yevamos needs to know?
What is Yibum?
Who?
What is Yibum?
No. That's what it looks like, but no. Not if you want to really, if you really want to use the Mishnah as a textbook. That is not the first idea. No.
Marriage creates Yisur.
Marriage creates Yisurim. What does that mean?
It means that the mishpacha of the wife will then now become also.
The mishpacha of the wife. So what's that called?
Forbidden relationship.
Forbidden. Exactly. Forbidden. So the first thing you have to know is the concept of what? Actually, the first thing you have to know is such thing as marriage. Right? Now, marriage is one. 2, what do you have to know after that? That you can't marry anybody you want. There are what's called forbidden marriages. Yes? That's number 2. There's a whole concept called aroyas. The parsha of aroyas. The parsha of what? Of forbidden marriages. Or relationships. Well, yeah, the relationship is too broad. You know, it means, well, relationship, I can't be a partner with you in business because...
Even not married, you can't have a relationship with that person. It's a sexual relationship.
Yeah, but I'm just saying relationship is too broad because, you know, relationship to me, I cannot enter into business relationship. Which one? You know. Anyway, so the first idea is a legal concept called marriage, which is a legal concept. You know what I'm saying? The second thing is the concept that you can't marry anybody you want. It's called an erva, right? Forbidden relationship. Yes? Third concept. What's the third concept? You need to learn to think sequentially. You need to learn to think in sequence. What's the third idea? I told you the first 2. 1, the legal concept called marriage. The second thing is that, right, that not all women are permitted forbidden marriages. That's number 2. Number 3.
Ways to be matter then?
Who?
Ways to be
No.
matter then?
No.
Which ones?
Who?
Which ones?
Which ones? Right? Who is forbidden to marry? That's number 3. You have a whole list. Which ones are forbidden to marry minat Torah? Which ones are forbidden to marry midrabanan? Right? That's number 3. Number 4. We're getting more and more zeroing on Yevamos. Number 4. What's number 4?
When might you be allowed to marry?
No. Well, sequence. I mean, you certainly say when.
Might there be allowances in some cases?
Yes, okay.
You have to know if you have to look for.
But that's really that's true, but it's very broad. I want to get into Yevamos. You know, although theoretically what you're saying is true. You know, when are you allowed to deviate from the prohibition?
Are there deviations?
That's
like he
what?
He said, which deviations are there?
Well, you know,
That's all in the same.
that's in the same concept.
Yeah.
You know, when are you allow, how you allow, etc. How is deviation possible? That would be number 4.
Isn't
No,
the previous one that the wife creates?
What?
Isn't the previous one that the wife creates specific Israel forbidden relationship?
No, I'm not going into why or what's the determinant for specific. That would be under the concept called, that would be a subheading under forbidden marriages.
Okay.
You see, you know, you want a category, then there's subcategories. You see, this is, if you want to learn how to structure information, you need to do this. You see? And so what do we have? 1, the concept of marriage. 2, the concept of
Forbidden.
forbidden marriages. Right? Number 3, who are the forbidden marriages? Then 4, I'll follow what you say, but it's broad. Are there any deviations of these forbidden marriages? Yes? That's it, 4. Now let's zero in on Yevamos. 5.
How does he have to die? What's with that?
No. What erva does Yevamos deal with? Gotta know that. What's the erva? No. The end of the Masechta. No,
You're
the
looking for
Yofim
the-
doesn't have nothing to do with an Eishes Ish.
Looking for
The
the-
guy's dead, so
Oh, yeah.
the guy's wife can't be an
Yeah.
Eishes Ish.
Right.
Unless it's coming back.
Okay, when you mentioned,
What's number 5?
when you mentioned the
Well, the
It's just,
Torah-
what the forbidden? It's just,
Eishes Och. Now we're going to zero in on
Uh-huh.
a certain type of erva. Eishes Och is number 5.
is the
Right.
specific in Yevamos, right?
Well, because we want to get to Yevamos, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But look how much has to go. So Eishes Och is number 5, because that's the erva. Number 6,
Deviation.
deviation of that Eishes Och. What's a deviation? What is a simple case? A man is married to a woman, A is married to B, A dies without kids. B is now beholden to C. Yes? I'm using letters because then we easy, instead of saying the sister-in-law is beholden to the brother-in-law, you go crazy with that, right? So we have 5 is the erva is Eishes Och. Number 6 is what? What's the deviation? And the answer is what? A dies, B now is bound to C. Yes? And therefore C can either marry or annul or cancel the bond. Yes? Right? So that is number what? That's number 6.
6.
And look how many, we got 6 ideas, they got to know before, but look how simple it is once you build it up. What's number 7?
how to marry and how to,
No, not how to marry, no.
how to,
No.
Even
Where are we headed? We want to get to the first Mishnah. Right? Right?
so the other way around, how to, what's the process of
No, so number 6 was what?
What do you do?
Deviation.
Was a deviation. Yes? And the deviation is what? That's
Chalitza.
called Yibum.
Process.
Yeah, where the guy A dies, B is now beholden to C.
He
Yes?
dies without children.
Without children.
Right.
Correct. And therefore, that is number 6 is a classic deviation. Means the Isur of Eishes Och either is suspended or cancelled, or whatever you think about it, right? That's number 6. What's number 7? We're going to the Mishnah,
Would
remember.
that now be explicitly the halakha of the Mishnah? Right. That
What?
Number 7, wouldn't that be the actual halakha we're dealing with now in the Mishnah?
What is it? What is the halacha of the Mishnah? Do you know?
I don't know what the first Mishnah says.
Oh, okay. So there are 15 women, okay, that they and any of their co-wives will exempt they and their co-wives from the whole concept of yibum, which means there is no deviation.
It's a deviation of a deviation.
Correct. That mission is a deviation of a deviation. Because normally, hey, B can marry C, what's the problem? As long as A died without kids, right? And also the Mishnah comes, number 7, and says, wait a minute, no. A dies without kids, we would think B, but here's the problem. B, if there's a certain type of Bs, or co-wives of B, right? Then B is not beholden to C. And therefore the Isur of Eishes Och remains, wow, that's a deviation of a deviation. You know, that's number 7. Now, how did that happen? You see, so a guy learns that first Mishnah, he goes crazy. Because he's not even learning, the concept of erva. He's not even learning the concept of deviations from erva. He's learning about deviations of deviations, which means to reinstate the original erva. Wow.
And I know I wanted to stop at Daf Yomi when it got to Yevamos.
What?
That's
No,
why
seriously.
people stopped Daf
A
Yomi.
lot of people stop at Yevamos. A lot of people quit the Daf Yomi at Yevamos. And it's about 10, 15 pages in, it's like...
You lose a huge percentage of Arabs and then you finish it off.
The rabbi specifically came and gave people quiz that they shouldn't quit. I remember it. People wanted to walk away from it. It was just.
Now you know why.
Menophis is also.
Now it's very clear.
Yeah.
I'm realizing why, like, it's just so
And it's
frustrating.
only-
They're talking, you have absolutely no idea what's going on.
No, because there's no preliminary ideas. There's no sequence of a build-up. It's like, imagine trying to learn calculus without knowing arithmetic. That's the same thing. Why would anybody do that? You see. But okay, Rabbi had his reasons. I mean, we're not talking about what Rabbi's motive were. Why would anybody write, So I'm saying, because it's not a textbook, it's a record of the oral law. So for whatever reason he decided to write of a deviation, what's a deviation of a deviation, which reinstates the original prohibition. Whatever reason, but, we coming into Mishnayos cannot use Mishnayos as a textbook unless we do what I'm doing, to sequence the information correctly. Then it becomes easy, you see, right?
I was thinking of it as a writer. I was thinking you teach writing. You see, a story. It's like telling a story in the sense of Mishnah. You don't start at the beginning. Storytelling is not linear from A to B to C.
Yeah.
You jump in at a certain point in time, and eventually, hopefully, background is revealed, and motivation, and all the characters.
Exactly.
I mean, it's the same thing.
Where? By
Developing a story, let's say.
Yeah.
You don't start at, where's the beginning of the story? Where's the beginning of the Mishnah?
Yeah.
I mean, things hopefully will be revealed over...
And everybody, if it weren't so, every novel would start off on this and this date he was born.
Right.
Well,
Agnes was born. Right? And then you have to find, then he went to school, he went to kindergarten.
our minds don't think that way necessarily. And
Yeah.
Most people are linear thinkers, but that's the problem. But the world, stories aren't told that way. We don't share information that way.
Yeah, okay, but a story is different than a halacha.
Some parallels.
No, there are parallels. But, go walk into your vomus without any knowledge
Plug in the white
before,
thing.
Right, if you're reading a story, you can go on and pick it to pieces as
Yeah.
you're reading it along. You don't lose anything. But if you're trying to learn something,
I know, I
background,
know.
you
The,
can go
the
down.
storyteller doesn't necessarily reveal all the
No, you
information.
True, but that makes it exciting.
Well,
But
that's
in
what-
the case
that's
of
what-
learning, it does makes it frustrating.
He doesn't want to reveal
Well,
all
not
that.
to reveal it all. I
That's a
mean,
flathead.
But that's
That
also the
flathead
drama
has
of
rules
learning.
tab.
What was that?
That's why it's a system, not just a structure. Because it teaches you how to think.
Yeah, but you know what? I want to tell you something.
That's the drama.
It doesn't teach you how to think. Because most people quit. But that's the
No,
problem.
not the gray, not the gray.
You see what I'm
The
saying?
second line back.
In any case,
Back,
therefore,
and the white line.
PI, which is preliminary ideas, is critical. And you need to be able to look at halakha and say, excuse me, what does this say?
There's a flat
And not be fooled.
thing.
that there's
tab
something
for
that
that
comes
white line
before.
has to be on the right-hand side.
You know what I'm saying?
Push it all the way.
You need to be very aware whenever you learn halacha. Well, if you're finding it difficult to understand halacha, that's
It
because
doesn't-
you're
no,
missing.
leave it on.
That's because you're missing preliminary ideas.
Yeah,
So
don't worry what it's on.
this should go on the
If it
halacha
comes
sheet.
in and
What?
switch over,
Preliminary ideas
don't
should go
use
on the
that
halacha
phone,
sheet.
too many calls.
What is
Use the
that?
house phone.
Preliminary
Use the house
ideas
phone.
should go on
Use
the
house
diagram,
phone.
on the halacha
Use
sheet.
the house phone.
Very good. Yeah, what you say?
So preliminary ideas should go on the diagram.
Well, no, not that. I'm into
This is a
Mishna.
prerequisition for understanding the halacha. You have to have on here the preliminary ideas.
No, but there it's not a problem because it's a halacha, right? So I could have began with a beginning halacha. But Mishna is a problem because Mishna is a presentation of halachas. That's the problem. So therefore you need to have background information. That's why Kahati, today you don't have as much of a problem because a lot of people
I'll
realize.
give you an intro.
So they give you what you call an introduction, I call preliminary ideas. That's why Kahati of Sancta Dishmaya, Art School does that. Now they all give you background introductions or information. But you need to know how to sequence that information and so on. You know what I'm saying? So in the old days, Mishnayos was very difficult to learn for many reasons. But among the reasons, because, where are we coming out of? Like I said, maybe get, What do you mean maybe get? What is a get? And so on. And then it's not just a get, there's a gerushin process. How do you get divorced? A get is an instrument. Remember we had that? Mm-hmm. What is a get? A get is an instrument that severs the marriage bond. You know what I'm saying? But it's not just a get, there's a whole process. right? The husband has to decide to divorce his wife. Well, what's his motives? And then he has to decide, okay, who's going to write it? What's in the get itself? You know what I'm saying? Then how do I deliver it? And so on. You have to hand it to your wife, you have to throw it in the chutzah, and not only that, then part of the problem of delivery, what happens if it's delivered from overseas to Israel? Now what? So then the question is really what? What's the issues here? What's the problem here? Guy comes from Medina Sayyam, overseas, yes? Here's the get, gives it to then you have the whole concept of agency, shliach. Can you appoint a shliach and so on? From either the husband's side or the woman's side, and so on. Then we have the concept, okay, so what's the problem here? Somebody comes with a get from Dina Siyam, let's assume it's a shliach, and you give it to the wife, and that's it. What's the problem here?
Question of credibility.
Well,
Validation.
Who?
You have to validate the answer.
Eidos.
no, I need a word. The words are diamonds. What is the problem? Everybody learn first Mishna get once in a while. Somewhere in the past Kagulam we learned get. What is the problem? Somebody comes with a get from Dina Sayyam.
Authentication.
Who?
Authentication.
Authentication is what you need to do. What's the problem?
Authenticity.
Authenticity. That's it. What is authenticity? Did the Baal really write this get or not? Is it authentic? That's according to Rava. According to Rabbi, there's no problem of authenticity. The problem is validity. Because do they know the halachas of get? Is this a valid instrument? That's his problem. And so on. So there we are. But this is what's called an advanced problem. Why is it the first Mishnah? Again, it's the same idea. And you can demonstrate this all over the place, and so on. Whether it be Yitzias HaShabbos, carrying on Shabbos, for instance, right? So what do you have to know before carrying on Shabbos? How many forms are there? That's what the Mishnah starts. Carrying on Shabbos, there are what? 2 forms that are really 4. Right? What do you have to know before that?
No, first of all, then we're talking about malacha.
We have to know that there is a concept called forbidden activities. That's number 1.
Because you know the concept of
Number
Shabbos.
2, well, you really exactly have to know the concept of Shabbos. Exactly. If you read that's I would go all the way back. Okay, where do I really start? We eat stuff in kindergarten. Sounds funny, but So first thing is what is Shabbos, right? And then the second thing is okay. One of the components of Shabbos. Shabbos is what? Is a variation of moed. What's a moed? Right? Then I define moed. Right? Remember what the definition of moed was? For those who
Required
remember.
activity or forbidden activity.
A designated time period in which activity is regulated, either being forbidden or required. That's it. Shabbos is clearly one type of moed, except the designated time period is the 7th day of a week, as opposed to a date of a month. Okay, then we zero in on one of the components or elements called parts, called forbidden activities. Okay, so forbidden activities. What are they? And so on. Then we say carrying is one of the forbidden activities. Okay, and the question is how many variational forms are there? Fine, so we say there are 2 forms, achnosin and so, okay, which are really rabbinical, whatever. So you see, we need an introduction here, and so on. And most Mishnayos need some type of an introduction.
You also have to know the different
Anyway.
residences.
What?
You have to know what a prati is and what Rashut Rabim is.
Oh yeah. I'm not even going into this
Okay.
Mishnah.
Okay.
You have to know far more than that.
Right.
You have to know the concept of rishus. What is the domain? Yes? Then you have to know the concept of what is the malacha? What does it mean to carry? How many forms of carrying are there? How many parts are there to carry? There's an akir and hanocha.
Right.
You see? And also placement. Well, where do you have to pick it up from? What's called a legitimate place that you have to pick it up from and place it? That's the concept of validity of place. You have to know all of this, and then the Mishnah comes and says there's 2 forms. It's like, look how much stuff you have to know before you get to that first Mishnah. No wonder everybody goes crazy. You know what I'm saying? It's not because they're stupid. It's because you can't do this. You can't introduce. I'm not going to Rabbi. Rabbi had his own motives. I'm not going to that. But we, as students of the Mishnah, have to realize we are looking at an intermediate text. This is not a beginning text, and therefore you're going to have a lot of problems. So you need to do the work of gathering what? Preliminary ideas in its proper sequence. And that will give you tremendous clarity. Right? Great. Okay, so we have that. So the PI is one, preliminary ideas. Okay? Now, then of course there are the Mishnaic statements. I call them Mishnaic statements, or the halachas. What are they? And each halacha has those 8 categories. Well, and so on, right? There's a case, the conduct, principle, and so on. You can, of each halacha, because you're just learning halachas. So you have the concept of Mishnaic statements. You know what I'm saying? That's number 2. Number 3, how many Mishnaic statements are there? Because believe it or not, you actually count the amount of statements, and when you review, you say, okay, this Mishnah has 7 statements. It'd be a lot easier to remember than if you only count them. You see?
How do you count the statement?
Count the halachas.
But how do you, sometimes there's punctuation in between them, or one is related to
Because
another
they have to
idea.
be logical. Which we'll see when we learn.
Okay, okay.
But, how do you even do that? But you count them, okay, 6, 7, 8, 9, because you need to do that for memory. You don't have to do it for knowing. The halacha, Mishnaic statements itself, you know that. And the analysis of that is the 8 objectives of halacha. But then that's clarity. But in order to remember it, you need to delineate clearly how many halachas are there, and immediately that tags the memory and say, okay, I know there are 8 statements. What are they? You see? That's very critical for memory, to delineate. If something looks like a massive material, you're not going to remember this massive material. If you do, you have to count it 100 times. But if you delineate, you know what delineate means, right? To specify clearly, distinctly. If you distinctly specify, then, and you know the amount, you'll be able to remember something. A very important aid for memory is to delineate the material. Don't leave it like a chart. Okay? So we have the first idea is the PI, preliminary idea. Then you have the MS, Mishnaic statements. Then you have the number, MSN, Mishnaic statement number 3. Now we come to number 4, which is the most important idea other than knowing the actual halachas. Because it's called the CI. One is called the CI, the other is called the CIA. What's a CI?
Central idea.
Central idea. There's always an idea that this Mishnah is all about. That one idea will give you tremendous clarity. It's got to be precise. And for memory, it's gavaldic. Because all you have to do is remember the central idea. And believe it or not, most of the Mishnah will come right into your memory. Because memory works by association. It's like a net. You throw out a net into the sea, you come with a whole bunch of fish. You see, many times if you designate one word which is the critical abstract of that, and you remember that, all of a sudden a lot of the details go flying right into your memory. Very important. The CI, I cannot overemphasize how important the central idea is.
It has to distinguish from other similar Mishnahs.
Yes, clear, yes. The CI of one Mishnah is going to be the CI different of another Mishnah. Now, so that's the central idea.
What do you think of there's the Mishnahs that have those charts? Do you ever see those? It's like these thin...
Mishnahs that have charts?
They have the central idea. They have central idea for each Mishnah. It's
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you see, I could bring it in.
But I want to tell you something, people are interesting, There was once a guy who wrote a whole Mishnayos with all this and so on. So I took a look at it and I saw the first Mishnah, whatever, and I said, it's nice that you have a central idea, but you're really wrong. That's not the central idea. It has to be precise. You don't realize, because what you're trying to do, you're trying to abstract the common thread of 7, 8, or 9 halachas in a Mishnah. It's not easy. It's called the common denominator. What is it? And it's easy, and not only trying to abstract it, but it's very easy to put a secondary idea instead of a primary. It's true, but it's not central. It's secondary, not primary. It requires thinking, you see, and precision. Okay? So you have the central idea, that's number 4. And number 5 is CIA. What's the CIA? The Central Intelligence Agency.
Where I went to school.
The CIA, what?
I went to school at the CIA.
You did?
California Institute of Art.
Yeah.
The CIA is the central idea area.
Yeah.
See, that's the synthesis. You do not...
Central idea,
area.
area.
Where does the central idea fit? What's its category? And that's the beginning of synthesis. You see, you do not want to go through all the Mishnayos without even looking at a structure or a category, because you'll have 400,000 details, and forget it. It's very difficult to figure out. It's very difficult to figure out what this structure. So that's called the central idea area, which we will do. Got that? Those are the 5 critical things you need to learn in the Mishnah, besides knowing what the halach is. Now, what is your objective? What do you really want to do ultimately? What you really ultimately want to do is create a structure of the entire Masechet. That's what you want to do. You want to see the entire Masechet. One diagram. And wow, that's an incredible achievement, because then you can review that diagram in 15 minutes. That means theoretically you should be able to review a Masechet, let's max it at 20 minutes. Right? And if say the Zeroim, let's say, right, has, say the Zeroim has 11 Masechtas, right? So that means you should be able to house the entire Zeroim in less than 4 hours. That's not bad.
Not bad, huh?
No. But you see how you can do it. The key is to organize. That's the key. And then imagine in 4 hours you finish the whole Zeroim. If you could do Zeroim in 4 hours, you could do the whole Shisha Sitting Mishnah every week. Now that is godless. That's unheard of. But it's really very easy. It's just a matter of persistence to do this work. Got that? That's the ultimate objective, is not to look at a Mishnah individually, or in the Mishnah, the halacha individually. You do that, you're lost. It's like the jigsaw puzzle. There's 10,000 pieces, and all they remain is pieces. And you never really know what's going on. So ultimately the objective is to learn Mishnayos. Why? Because you want to create a database, an incredible database, a framework of Kol HaTorah Kula in general structure. You see? You know that? You are, I told you, there's 4,192 Mishnayos. Each Mishnah has approximately 7 statements. So, 7 times 4,192 is approximately 30,000 halachas of Kol HaTorah Kula, the entire oral law. But, if you add all the preliminary ideas of each Mishnah, and remember, many halachas within the Mishnah itself need some preliminary ideas. There's preliminary ideas to the Mishnah, right, to the central idea. And then there's preliminary ideas in each halacha, maybe, maybe not. And then there's what's called post ideas. You want to know a commentary. Well, I see the Rambam says this. You want to add what's called some gravy. You go gravy, right? So let's assume there's a couple of those, right? Then 4,100, so let's assume there's already 30,000, right? Because there's 7, right? Let's assume each Mishnah has at least 4 preliminary ideas. And believe me, that's modest. 4 times 30,000 is 100.
No, but that's each Mishnah you said, not each
No, let's assume
halacha.
each Mishnah.
You
No,
didn't
I'm not
so
exactly.
You multiplied the 7 already by, when you multiplied the 7, you're doing halachas already, and then you can't multiply it by 4, because that would assume that each halacha has...
No, I'm talking about ideas.
I know, but you're saying that there's 4 preliminary ideas to a Mishnah, not to a halacha. There are 7 halachas to a Mishnah.
Yes.
See what
No,
I'm saying?
but that's true. But I'm also assuming that many halachas have preliminary ideas.
You'd have to assume that all of them do. So let's multiply it by...
And many times they do, which you
Okay.
say. Okay, but even if it's, let's say, it's certainly we're looking at 50, 60, 70,000.
That's it. That's better.
Okay.
There you go.
But
Precision.
It's a way of thinking. You have
I
to
hope it
define
makes it more, you know,
Yeah.
I'm relieved.
How much?
Now instead of 150, 120, I need about
I
60.
can learn it tomorrow.
Let's go get coffee, let's go.
But the truth is, many times, as you see, not only are there, I just gave you Yevomis. How many preliminary ideas were there? 6. Just to get to the Mishnah, right? And then within the Mishnah, you know, as it rattles off the type of women, each woman may need a preliminary idea in terms of, well, what's the family relationship of that woman? And so on. You know what I'm saying? What's the definition of an ant? What ant? It's not, you know what I'm saying? Each one has details in it. So you're looking at a massive amount of information. I feel there's at least 100,000 facts, ideas. That's enormous. But the beauty of it, it's kol terakura, and the beauty of that, it's not debate, it's not argument, it's facts. So if you know that, it's enormous. You will have acquired an incredible database or framework in which all Shas will now be contained within. And not only that, but Mishna is approximately 40% of Shas. Because if you take out all the Mishnas, because you know them, take them out of Shas, right? I'm not even talking about Zroim and Taurus, which are not even in there, right? And so, right? Then you take out every time in the Mishnah it says, V'hotanan, and we learn the Mishnah, take that out, because you know it. And then most Toseftas or Brises are 80% Mishnah, 20% Chiddush. Take that out. You're left with maybe 60% of Shas. So could you imagine, Mishnah is not only do you have a framework, but also you have 40% of Shas already mastered. And the in-between is what? Is the Shakavataya. Okay. With that type of background information, knowledge, you can go easily to 2 blood a day from Shas in 3.5 years. You should be able to. Because you know so much of the whole Masechta, and you divide it up into its topics and categories and so on. So you know the whole Masechta even before, you just don't know the arguments that took place, or what were the problems. What were the problems that the Gemara addressed? You don't know that. Fine. And also how it solved it. But it's enormous. That's really the way to begin. You know, and so on. Anyway, so you have, those are the major ideas. You have the preliminary ideas, PI, the Mishnaic statements, the MS, you have the number of Mishnaic statements, you have the central idea and the central idea area to learn a Mishnah. Okay? Also, what I recommend always, okay, if you are doing a jigsaw puzzle, you will never abandon the box picture. Never. Correct? You'll always keep it there as a reference. Because as soon as you pick up a piece, what do you say? Well, where does it belong? You take a look at the box. The same thing. Your job of synthesis begins immediately, not halfway through or the end. And the question is, well, how? If you don't have the facts, how are you going to synthesize? And it doesn't make a difference, because everybody knows a certain amount of facts just by the fact that you've been in for so many years. So you need to organize your facts, whatever you know. Try to create a framework. I don't care how skimpy it is, but you're way ahead if you don't create a framework. So create some type of a framework and begin to shift, you know, okay, it fits here, and so on. And then as you learn the CI and you categorize it, then where does it fit in your structure? You see? So you just like you do the jigsaw puzzle. You are not waiting to the end. you are doing it as you learn the Mishna itself, the analysis. Very important idea. Don't wait until the end. So what you're really doing is creating a diagram. You're connecting the dots slowly, but you got to start off with some dots in some way, and you get a feel by it if you read, let's say, one of these, they always give you an introduction. So organize the introduction. You don't forget the Mishnah. Start off with the introduction that any of these give you, and organize it. Say, okay, what are the categories? What are the ideas, and how do I categorize the ideas? And how do I begin to create a picture from these ideas? That's good. That's called an outline, an overview. And then you begin to do the Mishnah itself. Okay? That's it. That's my intro to the Mishnah. Okay, who learned the first Mishnah Brachos? I hope all of you did. You did. Okay, who'd like, want to say? Yes. Oh, okay. Does everybody know the first Mishnah? We're supposed to know. Okay, start.
When do we read the Kriya Shema at night? From the hour that Kohanim entered to read their Truma, ad sof or Ashmur Harishana, until the end of the first watch. Can I elaborate what that is, or would you prefer me just to translate?
Well, how would we begin?
How would we begin? The whole thing, the whole Mishnah.
Well, you can either go through the Mishnah first.
Yeah, maybe I should do that.
Okay, you want to do that?
For the end of the first watch.
Okay.
The Chachamim omrim ad chesros.
No,
Divrei Rabbi. I thought I missed something.
Very good.
The Chachamim omrim ad chesros. Rabbi Gabriel omer ad she'yaleh avad hashachar.
Who did you say was the first time? Ashmur Shen is who?
No,
Rabbi Eliezer.
The Chachamim is chesros.
You said Rabbi. Yeah.
You said Rabbi Eliezer?
Yeah.
And then Chacham HaChatzois and...
Rabbi Gabriel says until the crack of dawn.
Okay, I'm going to shach.
Maaseh happened.
Did you ever hear that?
What?
Did you ever hear dawn crack?
Yeah, you told the Buddha the drill instructor.
Maaseh happened to one of the Lisa Mishta.
Yeah, go ahead.
The sons of Rabbi Gabriel came from a feast, as some say it's a wedding.
Yeah,
Aruna, we said to him, look at him as Shema. He's not read the Shema.
yeah.
And Malahem said to them, if the break of dawn has not occurred yet, Chayavim Atem Cross. You're obligated to read Shema. Lo Zubel Vod Omru, and not only this did they say, that's a Chachamim. Even though he was Macholik on a Chachamim, but his answer was referenced, the reference of the answer was based on the Chachamim's. Not only did the Chachamim say this, Kol Masha Omer Chachamim Chatzos, Mitzvosam Ad She'ala Amad HaShachar. Anything which refers to the limit being until Chatzos, the actual mitzvah is until Amad HaShachar. Hekter Chalovin Ve'evorim, burning of fats and limbs, Mitzvosam Ad She'ala Amad HaShachar. Just a minute, there's a couple of things here. There's another one. Anything which can be eaten until midnight actually can be eaten until another shachar. In Ken, if so, Lama Chachamim Ad Chessos, what does the Chachamim say until Chessos? Kidei Achik, or Domin Avei, in order to distance a person from the
Okay.
Bravo.
Very
Well
nice.
done.
That's great. Now, how many statements were there?
And there's a question, first of all, the main...
Well, let's go,
Let's
okay.
count the state.
Let's go back to, no. First we have to make sure we understand what we're talking about.
Basically, the whole theme is centers around Kriya Shema at night, and the question, initial question.
What are the, so you said to Mishna, what are the preliminary ideas first?
The preliminary ideas is the fact is that there is a chiyuv of Kriya Shema.
That's one.
and that one of the times, at least one of the times of reading it, the chiyuv is at night. That's the second thing. And there's a time limit within which, or there's a time span within which there's a chiyuv. This chiyuv applies. And the Mishnah starts off by, at least our Gersa, explicitly asking from when. From when do we read the Shema? And the answer, which is given, it actually provides you not only from when it's given, but until when.
Okay, wait. Okay, let's go. The truth is there are 6 preliminary ideas. And those are important because from them you can begin to learn how to structure. Okay. What's the first preliminary idea?
These are required to the Shema.
1. What's the requirement to do what?
To say the Shema.
Okay, there are 2 ideas in what you just said.
Yes.
Split it. And this is an important concept.
What constitutes the Shema?
What?
What constitutes the Shema?
Oh, the Shema text.
Okay.
The text itself. Right? And the second?
Kriya.
Recitation. There you are. One is the object and the other is the action. You always want to split a mitzvah. Right? You want to split a Mishnah. What exactly is the object of the mitzvah? There are all kinds of halachos regarding the object itself. Then there's the action on that object. Well, what do I do? For instance, sukkah. What's the object? Sukkah. And what's the action?
Building.
Who? No.
Sit in.
Who?
Dwell.
Residence or dwelling. Correct. You see the difference. That's why there are 2 different areas. And because of that, you now begin to structure, to realize that there are 2 different things going on. One is the text, and the other is the recitation, or the perform. That's called the action or the performance. Those are 2 major categories in any mitzvah, and we're doing it here. That's going to help us see a lot of ideas later on. Is the Mishnah dealing with the object, or is it dealing with the action?
Rabbi, are these are,
That's okay.
by themselves, these are part of the obligation? The act, the object and the act?
Yeah.
That's part of the obligation, and that goes for every one of the PI.
Any one of the what?
The
Preliminary idea.
Yeah.
What about? What?
Understanding what the object is, or the
And
subject
understanding
and
what
the
the
action
performance
for
of the
each
action
one of
is.
them.
Yeah, because each one is a different category.
Okay, that's excellent.
See, we're already beginning to categorize. What do we really know? We just know Kriya Shema. But Kriya Shema, 2 things. There's a text, which is the object, and there's an action, which is the recitation. 2 important categories. Okay. That's okay. So the first idea is what? This is a text called Shema, and there's a action called recitation, or Kriya. Number 3.
I'm a little gray about this.
Who?
I'm a little in the gray area about this because we have another factor that it seems to be that we're only going to be saying this Kriyat Shema in Tefillah.
I didn't get you. What? What do you...
It's not just the Zman of Kriyat Shema, it's also
Yeah?
where is this mitzvah being done? It's within Tefillah. So how do I?
Okay. I mean, what is its context?
You could.
We're not into that.
But I want to know what the matzav is. I want to know what the situation is right now.
Fine, okay. You could do that. You could put down as, hopefully you'll be able to figure that out. But we're not looking now at what's called its context. Where is it, you know what I'm saying? Or what is it associated with? We're not into that now. Okay? Because you could know it, that's good. But we're not, that's going to take us too far afield.
Right. Okay.
We want to focus on Kriya Shema. So we've got object and action. What's next?
Time.
Who?
Time.
No. Obligation. Is it minat Torah or midrabanan? What is it?
Oh my goodness.
Well, what is this? So we now know that there's a mitzvah. Yeah, but what's the authority of this mitzvah? Is it right? Is it minat Torah or midrabanan? And if it's minat Torah, what is minat Torah? Because there are several sections. You see, we could have analyzed, okay, especially when you do this, okay, what is the text of Shema? I mean, this mission doesn't deal with that, but just to orient ourselves Well, what are we talking about? What is the text? You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And there are Mishnayos that are going to deal with the text.
Mhm.
That's why it's so important to split them, you know? Okay, but certainly you want to know, well, is this Minat Torah or Midrabanan?
Mhm.
Is it biblical or rabbinical? That's 3. 4. This is all before you get to the Mishnah. 4.
Time.
Who?
Time.
No.
No. No. What
Essential
goes before
conditions.
time?
Essential
What?
conditions.
No.
Who?
No. What's interesting about Kriya Shema, which is a mitzvah? What's interesting about it? You need to know that idea first.
Kavana?
No.
How is it performed?
Who?
Every
How is
day.
it performed?
No.
Every day?
Every day.
Twice a day.
Twice a day. It's frequency. Yeah, how frequent? It's critical for the first Mishnah, right? It's frequency. It's interesting. Its frequency is twice. Right? Oh, okay. Now what's next? We know it has to be done twice.